everybody, I'm Tom Vassell. Welcome to Look Back. Look Back is where I go back a year and 5 years ago, take a look at the reviews that I put out, and tell you what I think about the games now. Now, once again, today we have nothing from 5 years ago. I was busy working on my top 100 list at that point in time, but we do have a lot of reviews from last year, so let's get started with those. First of all, we have Hengist. This is really just a sore spot, I guess, I think, to Uwe Rosenberg, because his games are so well received. We have Agricola and Caverna. I mean, really great games. And this is a small two-player game that came from Lookout Games, where you kind of like moved along lines, like you'd say, I'm going to explore, then follow the line, and this is what's going to happen. And it was just bad. I mean, this game got universally panned by pretty much all the reviewers and pretty much everyone that played it. This game has already been forgotten about, and I'm pretty sure Rosenberg doesn't want people mentioning it anymore. Very odd, though, from such a great designer, such a really, really bad game. Sushi Dice. This was kind of a game where you're rolling dice as fast as you can. And if you notice, I dropped it a point because I really kind of dislike it. It's just rolling these dice, and you can just, at any point, if you roll certain things, you can force your opponent to restart re-rolling dice. It's kind of a mess. The sushi theme, rolling dice, seems like a fun idea, but this one just really never came together. Crazy Bullets, kind of flip cards over and see what happens. See who's supposed to slap what pile. There's a lot of games like that, but this one was just repetitive, over and over and over again. I like the idea of it, but the game itself was not very good. Bamboleo. Now, I know a lot of people like this game. I might be the outlier here, but this one here is where you have this big tray, and on top of it are different wooden blocks, and you pull them off and try to not make the whole thing collapse. The whole thing is extremely fragile, though. It's really easy for it to fall down, so it's kind of, all this time setting it up, carefully trying to balance the thing, and then it collapses. Just makes it not that much fun. And this Zoc balancing game, which is pretty old, there was another one I reviewed. I'll get to that soon. Let's see, Roar Catch the Monster. Now, this was a game that I liked, and I wish I could like it even more, but I don't. It's good. It's almost okay, I guess. And you're one person's moving a monster around, everyone else trying to catch him, but it's mostly a kid's game. I would love to see this idea put into an adult game, especially since this game used the iPhone or iPad app, and you're like trying to, one person's secretly hidden movement, and then players listen to the sounds, and from the sounds they hear, they kind of pin where the monster is in the city. A little too easy to figure out where the monster is, but such a cool concept. I love to see it expanded. Banana Macho. This is a kid's game about rolling dice and trying to push your luck to some degree to move up. It is good for kids. Same with Lucky Ducks. Lucky Ducks, really simple game, right? But this one, my rating for it is based on for very, very young children. And very, very young children are going to like the whole idea of looking at ducks and seeing what they find. Which is why you find these at all kinds of carnivals and things. Okay, then we have 504. Whew. Now, this was a very anticipated game. Each year it seems like there's one majorly anticipated game that doesn't seem to fit people's reactions. 504 was 504 different games. And I almost, I debated, I said, should I change my rating of this to a 5? Because I really don't want to play the game anymore. But nah, I got to keep it at a 6 because the games work. There are 504 different games in this box, and they work. Some of them work okay. None of them are particularly exciting. Well, there's a few that are decent. There's a few games that I would rate 7s, right? And so that kind of brings everything up. And it's like this, wow, this is an amazing experiment. But if you notice, you'll never see anybody playing this game. Mule. This is a really cool idea. Obviously, it's based on the Mule computer game, and a lot of people are going to be really excited about that. And I tried to emulate it very much. It's a good economic game, but for me, there's a couple random event generator things in the game that are pretty powerful, and that brings it down from being a great game. It is merely a decent game. It is a good game, nice components, but I think that randomosity thing on a computer, maybe people would be okay with it. As a board game, most people aren't that interested. Then we have Revolt AAA. Weird name. This card game from Reiner Knizia is really interesting because you're playing cards, trying to be part of the winning group, but then having the worst card in that winning group, which is kind of a weird thing to do, right? Because you're trying to put out a card that's low, but that low card won't help your group. So kind of this fascinating, and it's also ducks versus robots, which is kind of a silly theme. Then we're up to Submerge. Submerge. Now, this game is a worker placement game, and it has a lot of different places. You're getting dragons. There's so many places to put things in this game. It's hampered by a couple things. One, the board itself is just really kind of makes you cross-eyed. And two, the game is just not as smooth. After playing this again, it's interesting and it's good, and you're getting resources here to get dragon lords and whatever else, to get all these things, and it just doesn't flow like that. There's this constant, okay, I need to go here to get this, to get that, and I think that hampers the game a little bit. Then we have Above and Below. Now, me ranking this as 7 is actually kind of low compared to what most people think about this game. Most people love this game. There's a strong storytelling element in it, which I appreciate, even though I found it slightly not cohesive storytelling. And then there's a gameplay where you're building houses and such, and I felt like there might be maybe some dominant strategy. I didn't think the gameplay was as strong as the storytelling part, and I didn't think they came together as well. And yet I still thought the game was good, as you can see. It's a very solid game. Which from Red Raven Games is pretty much the norm these days, right? They make really good, solid games. But again, remember, a lot of people love this game, so take my views with a grain of salt. Skyliners. This is kind of an intriguing game where you have buildings that you want to see from your angle, and so everyone is building buildings, and you're trying to get a certain kind of thing, and it's almost an exact 4-player game. And it's almost a little too wonky, I think, for some people. In fact, I haven't seen anyone really talking about this game, but it's almost an abstract type game. You're building skyscrapers, but it's all about perspective and how you want them to look from your angle, and then you're working against other people. It's certainly interesting. Hamster Roll. This is the other dexterity game I mentioned from Zoc Games. This one I really do enjoy. A big circle, and you're putting blocks in, and it slowly rolls on the table, and you're trying not to make things fall out. A really unique concept. There's a lot of cool dexterity games out there. This is certainly one of the most unique ones that I've played. And then finally, Colt Express, Horses and Stagecoach. Now there's a second expansion for Colt Express, which I have not played yet because I'm still waiting for it to show up from Essen. But the Horses and Stagecoach was the first expansion. Colt Express was fun. This added a lot more fun to it with a stagecoach, and you could jump from the train to the stagecoach, or you could be riding horses back and forth on the train. It added some very cool thematic flair to Colt Express, so that was pretty neat. Well, folks, that's pretty much it for our look back this week. There's lots of new reviews and stuff coming out, of course. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. Until next time, I'm Tom Basil, and this has been Look Back on the Dice Tower.